So, hello everybody and welcome. My name is Tuve Siljakkus and I work as a lead generation manager at Eurocard. Uh, we are right on time and thank you for you guys who have joined me. We are waiting for a while here to get everybody online, getting their coffees and such. While we wait, just so we could test a bit the technology here we are using. There is a chat right below the screen with the slides. Why don't you just type in what you're going to have for dinner tonight? I'm a mother of two, and I always find it very difficult to try and figure out something new to have for dinner. So if you just want to type in there any ideas, that would be grateful because I'm running out of grillkorv and malet köttfärs. Pancakes. Oh, great. I want to have pancakes for dinner. That's cool. I think my kids would love pancakes for dinner. What about any other ideas? I think we're going to have some sort of a carrot soup or something like that today. Pizza. Cool. That's tomorrow. We have in Finland we have pizza perjantai, which is pizza Friday. Thai food, meatballs. Nice. Great stuff. Macaroni casserole. Yes, good old makaronilåda. That's good stuff. I've also done macaroni casserole without the macaroni. So instead of the macaroni, you use broccoli, and that's then a low carb version of it. Now there's many people out there who don't like broccoli, going like, "How can you do that?" Okay, keep those ideas coming. I'm gonna go back to the chat later on to see what we're gonna eat. I'm going to present a bit what you're looking at now. So there is now a picture of the picture. So we are now for the first time using this new console, which has a much more interactive features in it. So just so that you know what you're looking at right now, down on the bottom in the yellow square are some quick commands, and they are actually showing exactly what you are looking at now at the big ones. If you don't want to see our faces, you can click on the crosses, X up on the top there. No, sorry, that way. And if you want to look at the slides bigger, you can move around the boxes and you can change them and make them bigger. There is one slide in particular that has a bit of small text, but if you click it large, you can see it bigger. On the right, on far right-hand side is resources. There's a lot of things you can click on there. There's links to the websites, and also far down in is a red square, you see a PDF. That is actually the MasterCard report that you can download. And if you open up a link, it will just open up a tab, and you can always come back to this tab, so you won't be leaving the webcast. Don't worry about that. You found the chat in the middle there. At least some of you found. Give me more ideas for dinner, thank you. And then there is the questions and answer bit, and we have the help of my colleague Ulrika, who is monitoring the Q&As to give us the good questions here. If you have questions to the panel, if we don't have time to answer it directly, don't worry, we will get back to you. We will send you the answers later on. And if you are watching this after we are live, you can ask questions there too, because we will be answering them later on. Obviously not live, because this has already passed. Now I'm like in a time warp or something. But anyway, back to now. The agenda is short and sweet. We are going to go through the MasterCard study that was made late last year, and show you guys that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are fast getting vaccinated, everybody here in the Nordics. Just got mine yesterday. Yay. No side effects, by the way. And we're going to go through some bits and pieces of it. Please download the entire Mastercard report that can be found under resources. And we're just going to pick up some of the highlights together with my panel. And now you are going to see some more faces here because I'm going to introduce you to Simon and Eric. And actually gonna leave the stage to you. So Simon, you are on top there. So why don't you start by presenting who you are and where you come from?
Yes, great to be here. Thank you for that, Tove. Simon Peterson is my name, and I'm a partnership manager at Capsito, and we will come back to what we do soon. I've been here for a year and earlier worked for SEB with the SMB segment as an advisor. Great to be here.
Great, thank you. And Eric.
Hi guys, my name's Eric Arnell and I'm the CEO of BBDO Nordics. We're a creative agency based out of Stockholm, Gothenburg and Malmö. We have about 70 employees and we deal with everything from advertising, communication to experience designs and digital media purchases. So also great to be here.
Great, great to have you here. This is good stuff. So you are both within the segment of a small and medium-sized business. Now I would very much like you guys out there to answer the poll so that we get a bit of a feel of what the audience we have here. We have used the EU definition of or size, like how to categorize companies and sizes. So just start by choosing the correct size that you have there. And if there's any of my colleagues online, you don't need to answer this question. So that just to be clear here, that anybody from Eurocard, SEB Court do not have to answer that question. We're going to go back to the results here, but this is really interesting. I read through the report and we all know that these small and medium-sized, like all businesses have been hit, but of course the small and medium-sized businesses are really struggling at the moment and waiting for society to open up. And our family have tried the most to just help buy local and go to the smaller stores where we can and just do our fair share. Let me have answers coming in there. I'm going to jump to, I think if I do the submit now, we are there. If I'm also learning here now, so please bear with me. So we're setting the stage here with the pandemic aftermath study. It wasn't called that one. That's me here. But what is the temperature of what is the landscape for the small and medium-sized businesses? So the study was done in November 2020, and we had over 1,000 respondents. This is a really good amount, so MasterCard did a great job getting so many respondents. And actually, they were very evenly spread out of the Nordic countries, so we can say that this is also very representative of the Nordic landscape. So even you can all feel at home with these results. About half of the surveyed are micro or self-employed. In this panel, we are going to be focusing more on the medium and small. So if you are one of the self-employed or the micro, obviously a lot of the ideas and stuff that we discuss are available for you also. But we are going to be focusing on the medium and small business, and you Simon and Eric would be fitting into the Simon, you are in the small segment, right? And Eric in the
yes
11 to 50 and 51 and upwards. Exactly. So let's see how is our polling doing. So we are fairly much in the small and medium size. So good. This our audience is representing our our result. So first we're gonna go through this result in like during the pandemic, then this year, the focus now, and then the focus after. So this is the way the study has been made up. So what did the small and medium-sized businesses do during the pandemic? What was the first reactions? How did they start? What did they do? And the top thing of this is, again, if you want to see it bigger, I actually had to make it bigger now because my eyesight isn't that good. So increase the digitization and online presence. It's 1/3 of the people answered that this is what they did. Changing the business model somewhat, changing what the products or services, that was fairly, like restaurants had to go on from serving in the restaurant to the takeaway mode. What about you guys? Were you surprised by this number that it's only 27%, or was it the high number? What do you say, Simon?
No, I'm not actually surprised, because I mean, as not every industry can change and go to increasing their online presence, for example. But we've seen that clients want to be able to search for new sales channels and finding new models for that as well. So it's much in line what I thought, and we as a company has always been digital and not physical since we started. So we have actually hasn't changed anything in our business model, but we've seen that our clients have changed their ways.
Exactly. What about you, Eric? What have you seen from your clients, from your own organization, or people that you are your peers?
Yeah, well, we have about 40 different clients, which are spread across various different industries. As a whole, I thought the number in terms of changing your product would have been higher. We know that about 25% more people buy online than a year ago. 77% of Swedes now use, for instance, a remote healthcare service. We saw that Swish, which is a peer-to-peer payment service here in Sweden, have increased by 17% among pensioners. And I think 25% of plus 76ers have seen a cultural event online. So if you look at that, you can see that pretty much any consumer in society today have massively changed their behavior. So for most of our businesses and most of our clients, they've had to change the way they do their marketing, the way they sell their products, or the way they offer their products to the market in some way or another. So I'd expect that number to be higher, but perhaps a lot of the SME companies are kind of fairly new to the market as well, which could skew that. But it puts a lot more demands on businesses now to meet a customer that is shopping and purchasing differently than they did about a year ago. And I think it's crucial that you adapt to that.
Exactly, I agree. Actually, what surprises me maybe most about this picture is actually the lowest one, and that's none. 32%, that's a third of the respondents haven't done any actions or changes. Does that, like, what does that tell you, Simon? Do you have any? Is it like deer in the headlights, or what are your thoughts on that?
That's my first thought, actually. I don't know if someone just think it's gonna blow over, or what they're thinking, but yeah, it's quite a high number that hasn't done anything.
Eric, do you have any thought on that number being so high?
I mean, I'm hoping that consists of businesses who have already got a digital business model, who are almost benefiting from the pandemic. If you looked at where I used to work at Klarna, that was the case. You see that they've their business model has all of a sudden been very benefited from the fact that consumer behavior is moving online and people are purchasing goods online. I think one other reason, which might be less positive, is probably the way that the various governments here in the Nordic have offered kind of various support packages like furloughs, which have rather been a hedgehog approach of kind of reducing staff and trying to minimize the way you carry costs through this period, at which point you've been unable to innovate and might not have been doing anything. I personally think that's probably a very poor approach, because I don't think that these behaviors that we're seeing now are going to disappear. So this is probably rather a time where we should innovate, and we should certainly change the way our business and products are operating.
Absolutely. Yeah, the good point with the start in there, that many of these businesses are already, like Simon's businesses, like they are already 100% online and digital. So there's not much to change there. But I agree with the also on the governmental stage there, where we saw some very different strategies in the different countries and different approaches, and so if we could have time, we could go into each and every country and look at it, but I believe that they are also in the Mastercard report that you guys can download and just look at them there. But you touched actually upon the next slide here, where the hoping that, yes, it did change it. So again, I'm going to take this big one. As a result of the loss of the income, many of the SMEs had to make financial actions to mitigate that effect. So it's no surprise that the number one action was to reduce other costs, trying to reduce everything that you can reduce, and the laying of personnel was the number two, or there are three that have the same percentage there. So companies were rather looking at cutting other stuff than laying off or putting on furlough people. The interestingly, in my opinion, is that only 16% started to look at their own cash flows, and even fewer took out loans. What are your thoughts on that, especially the cash flow part? I know, Simon, that this is your, like, exactly down your alley, but I'm actually going to ask Eric to start off here. So looking at the cash flow situation and the taking out the loans start, what are your thoughts as you yourself are a small business leader? Like, how willing are you to, like, how well do you know your own business's cash flow issues and willingness to maybe go out and get some loans?
Yeah, well, I can kind of start with how we approach this period, and I think what our strategy has been. And fundamentally, I don't think you can work less to get through a crisis. I think you have to work harder. And if your business isn't benefiting from the pandemic, this is a time to invest in research, is the time to invest in development to make sure that you come out stronger. And I think, as I mentioned, that hedgehog approach of cutting cost and personnel, I think, is a defeatist strategist in many cases. Some businesses were absolutely entitled to do so, and it was the only way for them. But if you had that choice, and if cash flow was a problem, there are better ways to solve that than furloughs. And I've been quite critical of the way the Swedish government have handled the support package, because it tended to go to senior decision makers who remodel their summer houses while, other countries worked out how to sell products better, which meant that when they bounced back, they were better suited to capitalize on these changes. And going back to looking at how you solve it, yeah, I think for us, we were quite fortunate being part of a large network. So we have the option of kind of using them to solve our cash flow problems. But in essence, that would have been a loan. I have that option. Many businesses might not have had that. And I think if you stand in front of a choice now of using a hedgehog approach or actually investing to do more research, more development, and change your business model, I think it's your duty as a leader to opt to take that progressive stance, because I think anything else would have just meant a delay where others would invest and probably take that as your market bounces back, or while the companies in your category have amended their product offerings and then start to capitalize on that. So to me, I'd be surprised that it's that low. And I think the further this pandemic goes, and the more companies that are realizing that this isn't going to be over, and those changed customers' behaviors that we see now, once they're established in the market, they're not going to go away. I think more people will consider other ways of developing their business by not just focusing on cutting costs. So loans will probably be more relevant for a lot of businesses that don't have the same options as we have.
Exactly, and yeah, and then we're down to Simon. This is we're not going to be talking about your business proposal here. We are not we're not that's not what we are here. But you do. I mean, Capsito is very is a newcomer in the business in Sweden, and a very agile one. And what are your customers? This is what do you think that they're? How could they help? How like this cash flow rearrangement, knowing your money situation, and then going out and grabbing those loans? I think aren't people afraid to loan money? Like,
I think when I look at these numbers for a start, I think it's the short thing you do is to look over your costs. So I'm not that surprised, but still, many companies maybe think about taking a loan as a cost, and they don't want to increase their cost in the financing loan segment of their balance sheet. But still, I think in the long run, people need to look over this. They need to look over the loan situation, the interest rates. Can they rearrange their terms with the bank? Can they have an amortization-free period, for example, or negotiate their terms much earlier in the stages? And as Eric said, and was into some companies that have been around for a while, that have their liquidity planning and cash flow planning in place, they will take advantage from situations afterwards, after this pandemic. So some clients actually have a good cash flow overview and are ready to capitalize on that.
exactly, and also the fact that many smaller businesses might have smaller businesses as customers, so the outstanding invoices being an issue, because it's a domino effect here. When everybody is trying not to or pay as late as possible, then it will be a domino effect or snowball effect, whether, I mean,
Yeah.
it's going south anyway. so in that sense, to looking at options other than going to your bank, and that I find that I might say that the small businesses could benefit from opening up and looking at what are the options out there. But that the fact that there are so few of them that are thinking about these things, that only 16%, and that is maybe a bit worrying. And again, a very high number on the none. There are nothing changes in financials actions that we're looking at. So the sheer shock of everything that happened might have put people in a more of a like hedgehog strategy there. Then moving forward and looking at the top priorities for this year, the 2021, where we are at the moment. This is now only small and medium, because it would be even smaller, the text, if I would have added the micro and self-employed there. We're still trying to survive and drive things as is. That's what this slide is at least telling me. It's a hold the line strategy. We know that from warfare, that when you just sit and try to hold everything and just hope for it to blow over, should we be more ambitious? Should there only 5% who are trying to grow the business or drive the business more effectively, 28%. So still the massive majorities, like 60-70%, are basically sitting sitting still and just driving the business as is. Should we be more ambitious? Should you guys? What about your own businesses, Simon? Are you holding the line, or are you actively, or what is your message out to your customers, maybe?
I think we mentioned it before as well, and certain industries are actually performing better than before. I mean, delivering of goods, financing business as ourselves, and also businesses as CEO with the more online presence. This is getting more important. To be on top of Google Ads and whatnot. So we actually see some companies that we have as clients that are readjusting their business model and seeing other opportunities. For example, we have one client who went from selling alcohol to hand sanitizers as a possibility to adjust their business model. That's really cool. So that's a growth mindset, I believe, and that goes back to, okay, if you have the cash to do something like that, it's really important, and you can take advantage of it. So I think some can be more ambitious than they are, but of course not everyone can.
Eric, what's your take on it? I mean, your customers also are very. You have customers like us, and then you have customers who are not maybe more agile in the sense. And what are you like? Should there be more ambition? Should we think this is a golden opportunity to change things, or should we just hold the line and try and ride the wave?
Yeah, I mean, what's the expression? Never waste a good crisis. But no, I do think there are some businesses, if I look at among our clients, that will need to adapt to a survival strategy. You know, it could be if you're a shipping company, if you're an airline. We have two of those, for instance. They're under regulatory demands where obviously for them, their core business will probably come back into effect fairly soon. For them, it's probably more about survival. But for most businesses that have an option, I think you have to look at how you adapt. I mean, we've spoken loads with you guys about how you're moving into, digital self-services, etc., making it a lot easier to help companies with a smooth administration. And I think a lot of our clients are looking at ways to adapt their product, and they've been quite successful in doing so. For instance, if you sold construction machinery, you might now realize that the bottleneck is that you can't get people out to actually try the machines. Well, then you have to figure out ways of building online demo experiences and live shopping experiences where people can get the answers to their barriers, pain points, etc. So I think that if you can, and if you have the choice as a business, then it's your obligation to not hold the line, but to rather go and realize that the status quo has changed. And in terms of customer behavior, we're probably going to see that those changes we have now, they're going to remain. And as a business, you should try and capitalize on that if you want a greater market share going forward.
Is there something about this change that you both of you see as, well, this is not going to remain? Now, just throwing out the question that we didn't rehearse.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things that we've seen in terms of, if I look at our own company, we went cloud-based very early on. So looking at the way we work with each other, for instance, in prototyping digital product and services, we changed to a program called Figma. And all of a sudden we can sit in 3 places in Sweden working on creating a digital product for one of our clients. And I don't ever see us going back to the way that we used to work with more physical thinking. So I think a lot of those types of things will be kind of gone. The other things that we see is it's not just about how you adapt your offering to externally meet the market. It's also your own internal digital processes that needs to change. So if we look at the way we handle expenses, for instance, we're probably not going to be able to do that. Reporting with receipts, coming in, stamping in, being in the office, doing that. As soon as you switch to new tools, you'll probably find that no one's going to go back to the old ways, just due to the efficiencies, the saving in costs, times, etc. So I think there'll be a lot of things that we'll see on, and we'll think, God, can you imagine we did that? And to some extent, COVID-19 has kind of been the chief digital officer for a lot of businesses right now, and it's kind of been what's changed them. And I don't think we'll go back to those manual processes, particularly not the internal ones.
What about you, Simon? Do you have anything that you think that what we are now doing that we will not continue doing? Like, for example, okay, working from home for so much, or anything else that we have now started doing during COVID, but will not continue when we get back to normal?
I think as you mentioned now, yeah, I think as you said now, I think more companies will offer the opportunity to work from home, for example. But from our point of view and our starting in this pandemic, we always are working remotely and are familiar to those, for example, Figma and those tools that are. And I think this pandemic just speeded up that process. I think we were going towards that direction either way, but now in a much faster way.
Exactly. So now we're looking forward. How are companies now, the small and medium-sized sector, looking at the future here? So this is, what are the themes that they are looking at doing, actually changing? Customers were asked or companies were asked to rank how important the following themes are for the post-pandemic era. Now, this is the really, really small slide, so please zoom it up so that you can see it better. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 themes here, and 2 of them, quite a lot in the medium side that are focusing on everything, but the 2 on top are the ones that are actually being the ones on focus. So managing cash flow effectively and digitization. So again, these 2 things coming up. I'm basically zooming in on the 1 here, so we can see managing cash flow effectively. 57% find that of the respondents find that this is really important, and then the digitization again. But like, if you're looking at these things, so how can you, if you're sitting and holding on, your cash flow is unknown, unaware, and I mean, you're lacking the money to do the jump, then people are a bit stuck. And then go back to the first slide, we saw that few people wanted to go out and take loans. So how do you, what are your thoughts on this area here? Are this area, do you agree that this is the where people should be focusing on, or seeing this in your day-to-day? Eric, I'm throwing the ball at you first here.
Yeah. No, I think if we start by looking at managing cash flows, I think one of the critical things is just the speed of which your company can operate. And you manage, for instance, we talked a lot about whether your customers can kind of, or how they manage the invoices towards you, but it's also in terms of the supply chain. You can have suppliers that might not be able to supply what you need, and you might need to help them, and that might cause cash flow issues. And I think being able to handle that cash flow is going to be crucial to be able to move at pace. So I think that's something that businesses need to be able to have a great understanding of their cash flow. You need to be able to forecast it, map it. And I think one of the difficult things, particularly with us being a consulting business, is we have 70 consultants in different parts of Sweden. Understanding, what does our cost look like on a running basis is incredibly important. We're also listed on the New York Stock Exchange, so we have to do a lot of reporting, and making sure that's not manual, I think is crucial to save time. But in that aspect, yes, managing cash flow, knowing how you need to handle your cash flow and when you need to help both your suppliers, but also handle kind of where you stand with your customers to move at pace is crucial. But I think digitization is incredibly important. We talked about, how we've solved for that, being entirely cloud-based, making sure that we can work as a team together with our customers, regardless of whether it's, tools like Figma or, Power BI or the full Office 365 setup to create a good working environment. But it could also be, as you mentioned, Simon, in terms of how do you need to change the way your business is now visible. Before, you might have done one type of media purchases. Now you realize that all your customers are online and you need an online presence. So tools like Google, DV360, etc., to be able to buy or being able to buy on social media. I think all of those things are becoming incredibly important for companies. So it doesn't surprise me that these are the top two. And then I think it's up to each company to kind of figure out how important are both to them. In our case, both have been very important, but I think digitization has been the one key thing we've focused on to solve for the pandemic.
Exactly. And also the interesting part of the digitization of a process is actually one of the most difficult things that you can do, because you seem to be so stuck in replicating the existing process and trying to make that digital. And that is, I mean, we have this conversation with our customers all the time, and it's the most difficult is trying to like unknow everything you know about your existing process, and then just trying to like, what am I trying to achieve? And I think that you, Simon, in your company, you have the luxury of not having that baggage, so you can actually go, so, well, we thought of, and then you made the process fit that. And so what is your take on this? First of all, the comments on the slide here, and then on the fact of how, even though you didn't have the baggage of having to unknow a process, then you probably have still understanding on the situation.
Yes, indeed, and I mean, they are, as Eric said, you need to know your costs, and there are alternatives for your working capital and cash flow solution out there, and we try to help clients with that. But we are not only a company that tries to simplify financing to other companies so they can achieve their dreams. We also have one leg in our Capcito group that actually help other lenders to digitize their processes with utilizing their credit decisions with real-time data as a solution. So we see a high demand in that as well, and more companies that wants to do this, that needs to do this. So that's one of our businesses. So not only have a digital customer journey, but also have a digital back office solution as well.
Exactly.
So I think that demand will just speed up as well.
But I think like your good the luck you had with not having the baggage is actually, it draws to mind a good saying. I can't remember who. I saw it on another webinar, and there was like the invention of the electric light did not come from continuously evolving or developing candles.
Exactly.
So that's like the digitization of your processes. If you are now listening and you're thinking like, okay, so I need to digitize my expense handling, for example, that doesn't mean that you have to figure out how to robotically stamp your receipts together with your invoices. You need to flip it around and go thinking like, okay, so what am I trying to achieve? Yes, get more light, and that means I have to figure out how to generate something, a light bulb. I mean, the development of the car, I think, is a fantastic story here, because that's what they actually try to do. They tried to develop candles. They're trying to make the first cars they were driving like horses. They were like thinking about horses. The width of a car is like the rump of two horses. So, and everything is since that it's about horses. Talk about horsepower. The car hasn't really been changing that much until, well, Elon Musk said this is ridiculous. So again, trying to the digitization of your processes shouldn't start with your current processes. It should start with talking with people like you see, Simon and Eric, and thinking like, okay, what am I trying to achieve? What is the end goal? And then reverse engineer. That's I'm just ad-libbing here.
Yeah, wasn't it Henry Ford that said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would said faster horses.
Exactly. Yeah, that is so insane. Like when left-hand car is driving, also it's because you were sitting on the other side of the right-hand side of a horse carriage. That's why everybody started driving on the wrong side first. But that's another story. But yeah. And apparently the story about Henry Ford only wanting black cars that's an urban legend. So let's not go there. Okay, for you guys who are listening in, what are your biggest priorities in the next 12 months? You can choose many. You can choose only one if you want to, but just if you have thought about this, it would be interesting to know what you and your peers are thinking about. So is it better control of your finances, or are you looking to infuse more cash in your business, or looking for investors because you have this digitization thought already, or just are you looking to secure your current business? When we are waiting for people to select here, Simon, when you have discussions with the customers calling in to you at Capcito, what are their most like? What is the top priority basically for them? Why are they turning to you guys?
Sometimes it's very product demanded. For example, when we are a provider of invoices or invoice financing, so that can be that kind of help they want. Maybe they need to lower their administration time and costs, so we can do that for them. But actually, when they are bigger investments, it's actually for purchasing something for their business to evolve or develop or do some change, because the old machine is not doing the work anymore, and they want fast help.
Okay. Eric, do you have like your customers when they're looking for or often they turn to you because they need new vision and new ideas to how to change their business? What kind of conversations have you had with your customers during this, like looking at the end of these weird times?
Yeah, I think almost all of our customers, regardless of category, is asking the same question, which is, how do I secure my future business? And what will that look like? So, regardless if you're a company selling, as I mentioned before, construction machinery, like how do you sell that? What's the future model of selling those? If you're transporting people, how do you change that? What's the actual experience we want out of flying or out of going by, a ship, for instance, where going and using your car will be a lot more important. But how does that entire process look like? If you run a funeral parlor, how do you handle funerals, etc.? So for us, we as consultants don't tend to get much involved in terms of our clients, control of their finances or kind of infusing cash, besides obviously driving their revenues. But it's more about figuring out, what does the actual business model look like? How do I meet that? How do I amend my brands to it? How do I change my products, my services, etc.? Or how do I just get out into the marketplace to increase my salience? And we find that most of our clients are having these discussions on one basis or another, and then it's just depending on what category they're in. Salience might be much more important, and actually working on selling through the web might be the entire change they're going through. Others might just change the products and services that were previously part physical into being completely digital. And for others, it's more about figuring out how do I actually adapt the market offering I have, and how do I communicate that to a wider audience to make sure they choose me instead of other previous competitors that might have not been competitors prior to this pandemic, but that now are. So it varies, but we're dealing with it across the board.
Exactly. And now I'm just like looking at the last statement we had have in mind about managing the cash flow. We've been talking about this for a while now, and I have been also taking this up in previous webinars. For me, when I'm saying managing cash flow, I mean, you can think of it as your own personal cash flow, your own what you owe and what you get in. And for my mind is to have, like, you can't understand your cash flow unless it's all digitized and online and immediate, so that you know, like, for example, expense handling. Now, we do know that in the small and medium sector, fairly quite a big part of customers or companies do not actually have this process honed out as much as the larger companies have. So there is a big question mark. How much actually money do I owe? How much working capital do I have? And that is a big question mark that needs to be answered if they want to come and say, have services like you, Simon, offer. And I'm actually going to split this question, because I'm going to do another take on it, like for Eric, but for your how do you, Simon, see this as? Is this very important, or is this kind of important, or, well, it's not that big a deal? I mean, say a company has 25 salespeople and they all have expenses all the time. They take customers to lunch, they go, they drive around the country, they sleep in hotels and all that stuff. And this is all done offline. So you don't really know exactly today how much do I owe my employees. And then I want a cash infusion. I come to Capsito. What problems does this give you, actually? How can I get money? I was breaking up there a bit, but did you get the question?
I think so. Well, we need our clients to know how their cash flow is gonna look for going forward, of course. So that's really hard for example, in your example, a company to get the right loan or finance that they actually want, because they don't know their expenses. So that's always something that we try to help them with as well. Okay, how do you know that you're gonna survive if you don't know exactly right now how much you have and don't have? So it's really important to have the right tools and secure, as Eric said before, the secure business going forward. And we actually are, our vision and what we want to be able to give our clients in the future is actually to have cash flow on autopilot, utilizing bank data and ERP system knowledge to actually offer clients seamless financing through that. So based on historic data and how the client is performing right now in this period, they can actually just tune in the autopilot finance and don't have to worry about going to the bank. So that's our goal going forward.
That sounds good. That sounds perfect. That's also a very, CFO hat on and thinking about those cold hard facts. There's also the other side of this, and what's been becoming very apparent in these times. We have been working from home now, depending on the country, but here in Finland it's been like 15 months now. that's been recommended work from home as much as possible. This also puts a lot of strain on the employees on a mental level and psychological level, and we can do tools, but you, Eric, mentioned to me something that has been brought to your attention now when you realize that, oh dear Lord, our expense management systems, and you can take it from here. It's your story.
No, and I think the pandemic has been tough on a lot of people. We had a meeting with Harvard Business School and a lecture 2 weeks ago, and they showed just the impact it has had, particularly among younger people. And as a consulting business, as an agency, we do have a lot of young people employed. They're affected probably more than any other group, and a lot of what they looked forward to in their calendars have been wiped out. So our job as an employee is obviously to make sure that, while handling our business, we need to make their lives as easy as possible. And if you take something like expense management administration, if that's an arduous manual process that you have to do and sacrifice a Friday night for, that's going to create a snowball effect on that discontentment that they already have and serve. So for us to have really smooth internal processes for how to handle that is obviously key. And we've been very good at handling it in some parts. But there are other parts like expense management, which is still manual, which still requires, entering receipts manually into systems, coming in, filing manual reports, and then waiting a long time to get that money into your account, which might already be strenuous during these times. So I think those things has a huge impact on happiness. And ultimately, our business is all based on the engagement and the talent of our people. And if you have poor internal processes for how you handle, expense management is one of the things. If you look at our long tail procurement of our purchases, we talked about these cloud. A lot of these, like Figma for the design of digital products, or if you take Float for resource planning, they require credit cards. And if that's employee credit cards and they might leave the company or their cards might expire, etc., then again, that becomes an arduous process for the people around them, who then have to make sure that the access to these cloud-based tools are always there. And again, them having to make those expense reports in that arduous ways monthly just becomes a real kind of added stress level to an already bad situation. So I think we often look at how we as a company can adapt our offering to the market, but the digitization of internal processes and the administration is crucial because there's very little tolerance for that, particularly among your own employees. Because if you have them doing that on a Friday afternoon, well, you're going to lose. There's going to be a competitor which is going to have more engaged people, and they're going to secure better talent. And that's ultimately our entire business. So it's crucial. We don't have that at the moment, and you can tell.
Exactly, and it's like me having worked in the sales for 3 years, too long, not too long, but long. When I've have previously, before coming here to Eurocard, having job discussions, the first question is, do you have a CRM? Are your tools in order? Because it's like you are a lumberjack, or you're trying to hire a lumberjack to take down the trees, and you give him a spoon. It's going to be very hard for him to get that tree down. So providing the tools people need, like from working from home, making sure that everybody has screens, separate screens and chairs and all that, like starting from that, and then moving on to when you do your job, you don't have to use your own cards. You have company cards and expense handling systems and all that. We are almost at the end here. We're looking at the top results here of the top priorities. We have a part who is looking for infusing cash in the business, and of course we do understand there's securing the business is paramount. You are employers of people, so making sure that stays is very important. But we are ready to wrap up here, and before you click close down the browser, just hear me out for the end here. We, of course, are representative of 3 different businesses here, providing different kind of solutions, and we didn't want you to sit here, listen to us selling our products for an hour, but just at the end here, please visit the websites that is displayed here. We have a Capsito website with a interesting case story for you to read. Of course, our Eurocard website. Then we have a specific, we highlighted the Expense Manager, which is our product for the smaller businesses. And then, of course, our Eurocard financing, which is a solution that we provide in Sweden today. So as a Eurocard customer, you are entitled to a discount for Capsito services. And then, of course, we have the BBDO Nordics website where you can go and hire Eric's services for some fantastic value propositions and other. You saw the presentation here. It's their handiwork. I just wrote the text and they made it pretty. And of course, not to forget the Mastercard report. Please download it and read it. It's very interesting stuff. And maybe you can find their ideas that you can help your customers also. And just at the end here, it would be very fun if you could just give us some feedback. Oh, I almost spilled my water here. I'm so excited here. If you give us a mark here, if you found the webinar interested and would recommend it, or it was somewhat interested, or it was nothing at all. But then again, if you weren't interested, you probably are not even listening to me either now. But so give us the feedback, and even though if you are watching this now recorded, please give the feedback anyway, because it is actually going to be registered. So this is very important for us to get some feedback. So if there are any, I haven't seen any questions here. Ulrika, I haven't missed anything. If anybody wants to ask anything now, you have the chance to do that. So either of the boxes. Well, we were so crystal clear in our message. Please get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us via the invite that you got, or via LinkedIn. We are all on LinkedIn there. Smoke signals I cannot decipher, but there are telephone numbers and web ways of getting in touch with us. So thank you, Eric, and thank you, Simon, for your time. And I want to thank you guys out there on the other side of the screens. Thank you very much for giving us 1 hour. I hope you got something out of this. And for my part, I want to wish you a very happy weekend after tomorrow. And remember to vote for Finland and Denmark in tonight's Eurovision Song Contest. Sweden and Norway are already through, so let's get the rest of the Nordic countries. Come to the dark side, the blind channel. Number 14, by the way. That's Finland. I can't remember the Danish number, sorry. Any final words for you guys?
No, thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be on.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so collective, thank you and bye.
Bye.
Thank you.